Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Today is February the 21st, and this is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Port of the Islands, CID. For purposes of the record, today's meeting was properly noticed. A copy of the affidavit is on file of publication at the district's office. We should also note that all members of the board are present this morning physically in person. Mr. Lombardo has not arrived yet, but members of our staff, I don't see him.
He's going to be on Zoom.
Is he?
I'm present by Zoom. Hi.
Yes, there he is. Good morning, Zach.
Good morning.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we go down to item number 2, which would be the approval of the agenda.
Anybody have any changes to the agenda for today? No. Okay.
Not can you entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion, we accept the agenda as
Second.
illustrated.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Item 3 today are public comments on those matters that are not on our published agenda. I don't see any individuals who've signed up on the sheet, but we've got a number of folks here, residents this morning. Any public comments on the front end? There'll be another. It's cold, Mr. Chairman, down here this morning. I think they're just all shivering or something. I'm not sure.
It was below zero where I was yesterday, so this seems kind of nice.
Item 4 of the review and approval of the minutes of your January meeting that occurred on the 17th, and they're behind the next tab there.
Yeah. Anything that anybody saw that needs to be changed? There was a few typos in there, but nothing worth making a deal of. Otherwise, make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Skip down just for a moment to item 5B, and I apologize. I labeled this wrong when the staff put this together, so I put a tab in your agenda. I wanted you to see an aged receivables report and some that are inactive, and by inactive I mean that former residents, with maybe one exception, did not pay their entire final bill, and the policy of the community is that only renters are required to pay a deposit in advance. And so this is the aged receivables report. There's one I would like to keep on here. What my recommendation is going to be, though, is that we write off the balance of these. We have worked very hard on your receivables, and the sum total here was $8,189. There's one, though, at the very top of the page for 172 Venus K, where they had made a payment just prior to Christmas. And so we continue to track that one. The other ones, for the most part, are back in the prior year, 2023 year. Again, in every case, most of these were for very small amounts. There are 2 that are disappointing. One that occurred at 179 Evening Star K, and the other one at 123 Newport Drive. There at the bottom of the page, those are $1,800 and $622. Again, these are old. We are much more aggressive now, and Kevin works closely with Mitch to send final notices and door hangers, which is required of shut off. That has really drastically reduced the total number of receivables here. Happy to answer any questions.
Were these owners or renters?
These are all owners. I have deposits in place.
And they have since sold?
There are now current accounts under new names for these, if that's your
So,
question.
it's one year for like $1,800. Can we turn that to collections or do something else with it? Because that's a, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that. Is that a single family address and, as far as you know?
Yeah, Evening
So again-
Star, 179 Evening Star.
Yeah, your policy is a little ambiguous as to whether or not I have the authority to stick the new owner
That's what I was
with
gonna
an
ask.
unresolved bill in the absence of a deposit.
Why can't you go to shut off on these, even if with a new owner there? Because that should have been cleared when they bought their place.
To stop them.
Yeah,
And they should be able to go back to their, when you buy insurance,
Right.
title insurance, they should have caught that.
well, and that's why it's on here, was to get a little direction, because your policy is clear with respect to deposits. Deposits are not required of residents. And in this particular case, the policy is ambiguous as to whether I can put this on the new owner or the new tenant if it's unresolved for this particular meter note.
What does Zach say about that? Zach, are you on?
Yes. I'd like to be given an opportunity to review that policy and render an opinion on this before we pursue a new owner on something like this. I've not reviewed this policy for today's meeting, but I can do that, and I think that we should take the moment to do that before we pursue a subsequent owner on a utility bill.
The thing is, I really wouldn't want to shut these folks off without making an attempt to clear this up. But I wouldn't mind us contacting these owners and asking them to go back to
Current owners?
the current owners and asking them to go back to their title insurance company and whatnot and see what they can do about it before we,
Well, that's why I said on the front end, there are a couple of here that need a little discussion. My recommendation is that the others that are less than $100 at this point,
Just write it
we should
off.
probably go ahead and write that off
yeah.
on your, consent.
Yeah, but at least these two here that are almost $3,000,
Yeah, and then there's.
that wasn't a mistake. That wasn't an oversight. That was, I ain't paying you.
Well, especially where there was no last payment date, that means that they have been gone for some time.
Yeah.
At your direction then, I think we'll continue this for 1 month. I will contact the current owners of any amount, let's say that's over $200.
Okay.
Zach will take a look at the policy with respect as to whether or not we can pursue current owners for bad debts from a previous owner.
I don't know, me personally, I'd just as soon not go after the new owners.
I wouldn't be crazy about shutting off somebody's water who's a faithful customer.
I wouldn't, no.
For a new bill.
It was obviously an oversight when they purchased, and, I mean, they might have a little teeth in it, being able to pull that back. If not, I think we should let it go, because, they don't deserve that.
What are we doing today that this won't happen again?
We're tracking this stuff now bi-monthly. And so that's why I said we are far more aggressive in notice and statement of accounts, and then a final notice of shut off. And then a handful of instances, we had put placards on people's front doors, like maybe 4 to 6. So we're hanging shut off notices on people's front doors. We've probably done a half a dozen of them in the past year. All those accounts are current.
Are we still at like a $25 fee?
There's a
late fee?
Yep.
But it's really low, right?
They get automatically imposed, yeah.
I mean, we should,
We talked about.
Talk about-
18%, $35, I think, is the max, might be the max we can go. It's crazy because at $1,800, you know how many months they went without paying their water bill?
Yeah.
A long time. A long time.
well, yeah, but they've taken care of that. So I think, what is it now, after, if they're more than a month's value behind, you can shut them off?
It's 2 months.
2 months?
We're
Okay.
2 months, and it needs to be, the amount due needs to be more than a single billing,
Right.
an average billing for that address. I can't shut them off if it's less than, like a one bi-monthly total.
Okay.
All right?
So then it's after 4 months.
Just before we move on from this one, there was some mention about writing off the smaller ones. Is that going to take place, or are we continuing the entire thing to the next meeting?
My recommendation, I believe there's consensus here, that if it's less than $100, there's one for $107, we're going to write those off.
Okay, but getting back to, is it after, they don't pay for 1 month, right? But then, for 2 months, because every 2 months we pay. And then-
Yeah.
So then there's another cycle, so it's gonna go.
You're right.
cycles.
You're right.
Yeah, I can hit them on the second one once, unless the late fees that get applied, then we would take it over the one bill minimum.
I would be in favor of raising those late fees.
Yeah, it'll be a different
We should
story if we
change
go with the
policy.
utility-based
Mhm.
rate.
We should change our policy.
I don't know. Zach, is that something that we can do, or do we have to change policy at some point?
It's going to need to be done through the policy documents, as I understand it. It wouldn't be something
Okay.
that we can bring that, if you'd like, with this continued item, we can bring back to you a proposed change on the late fee structure.
Okay.
If we're gonna do that, then
All right, so there's 21, there's 20.
I'll give you the 60-day receivables report to Mr. Kish's question. I'll put that in the backup the next time, just to show you what, and it runs the gamut. I forgot to pay,
Yeah.
I never got the bill,
Could we look at maybe a different way of doing this? So there's 21 of them here, and they're all inactive, so that means that they've changed owners or whatever.
Yep.
Before the new owner can have service, why don't we just put in a rule that we check that? Before we open a new service, we check that the old one's paid, and if it's not paid, we don't open the new one.
Yeah,
That would be one way to catch it at closing, and they can figure it out between the old owner and the new owner, but that way we're not sitting here looking at a page full of people that left and said, hey, I'm not paying my bill and they're out of here. I think if we could have a rule that says,
I'm just thinking through the logistics of that. I think that would work.
it'd be pretty easy, just check if there's an old bill, I'm sorry, you can't have new service until your
Yeah,
account
because
is.
I think to Mr. Baird's point, we're disclosing all of that in advance of the closing through the estoppel process every
Right,
day.
but evidently it's not working, the estoppel process, because these would be cleared. So what if, before, it's just simply you call up and ask for a new account?
Yeah, we flag it.
We just say, we'll check on that, and we check, make sure that there's nothing standing on that account. If there is, before you can have your new account, you have to clear the old one.
This is all sins of the past.
Right, but I'm
Well,
saying,
I
going
know.
forward, I'm going forward with this.
Yeah.
That would.
So going forward, just as an observation, there are ways that real estate moves that is not through a traditional transaction, for example, through probate. And so there's scenarios where there may not be an estoppel generated, and that may be what's happening here. There are fringe scenarios, but they do happen. So we could look at this as part of the rule change. And I guess just to clarify, we would bring that back to get approval as to the format, but then it's going to have to go through a notice procedure. So when you modify your utility billing procedures, there are additional notice requirements that happen. So it's not something that can happen immediately, but we could get the draft back in front of you, make sure you agree with the format, and then go through the notice procedure.
I'm satisfied with
I
that.
would look at rule change on that. If we can catch them before the new account takes over, that's just part of the deal. You bought a place, if there's money owed, you're gonna have to clear that account.
What is the estoppel process? What is that?
I actually get a physical request to disclose, or have are their bills current, or what is the balance on the current account for this physical address? When the new resident comes, they open a new account, get a new account number, but it ties back to a meter and a physical address. And so we're disclosing that to the closing agent, whether it's a title company or whether it's an attorney. They'll also make similar inquiries concerning the non-ad valorem assessments. Are they paid? If not, we disclose the fact that they're not paid.
That gets disclosed, but that doesn't mean they get paid. Evidently, it's not getting paid because all these people haven't known about it.
It ended in 2023,
Yeah.
for some that were at least that old or had made payments, but
So the title company contacts you?
yeah.
Because
Oh, they close the
you
gate.
wouldn't even know what's going on, so they have to be contacting you, so if they don't contact you,
Banks are requiring, lenders are requiring, as a condition of a mortgage, that disclosure takes place. It is very, very unlikely that a piece of real property would be sold without somebody wanting to know, are the HOA dues or the condo dues paid, and this kind of thing.
I like it on this kind of thing. I used to own some rentals, and it's nice when you have leverage. And there's a point in time at closing, or shortly thereafter, when they want their new account opened up and their new address and name or whatever, you have some leverage, all right? Because they need that new account, and it makes it real easy to collect. You don't have to chase them, you don't have to do anything, you just tell them you can't open your new account till the old one's cleared. And I'll bet you get them cleared fast.
That's how the electric company does it.
You would, again, I would be hesitant to shut a new owner's water off for failure of the prior, but to create that sense of urgency, you take care of 90 to 95% of them.
You would.
Yeah, we gotta go from here forward, we can't go back.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's going forward, but it's a way to.
Understood, but this was an important issue to me. I wanted to share it with you, and I'll show you the current receivables through the most recent billing cycle when I see you next month.
Okay.
So just to confirm, so I know what I'm bringing back to you, you would like to explore changing the rules and policies, whichever ones are necessary, to increase the late fees, but also to look into requiring payment before transfer of title.
We'll change the rules.
Yeah.
Change them.
We'll change it all.
Yeah, I think we'll stop just short of requiring new owners to have deposits on account unless the board were to determine otherwise.
Okay, and then depending on the vehicle, so if it's in the policies versus the rules, there would be different time frames and methods that we're going to go through to actually change those rules. But what I'll bring back to you is here's where we can put the new concepts, and then you can tell me which ones you want to go forward with.
It's currently within their administrative rules of procedures that we would have to do some advertisements if we were going to propose any changes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Another change that we need to do to the policy is a fee to turn off and turn back on. I think it's $10 now. It needs to be.
Yeah,
at
there
least
is a
$100.
shut off. If I shut it off, then there is a fee, but it's modest, as is the late fee.
Needs to be increased.
Okay. Did you hear that, Zach?
I did.
Both late fees as well as,
And she's suggesting
shut off.
$100.
That's what's normal.
All right, noted. I see our contractor has arrived now, so Matt, we're down to you, buddy. We're under utility operations.
Sorry I was late. No problem. I had printer issues, so I'm going off the phone today. Matt with Florida Utility Solutions, here to give you your monthly board report. All operations of the facility throughout the month were in accordance with contract and regulatory requirements. All wastewater plant requirements were met, and all water distribution requirements were met. The reuse pump system functioned as intended. The canal station is still operating on 2 pumps. As a backup to the reuse system, the wastewater treatment plant received 2.28 million gallons of wastewater in January. The water plant produced and distributed 3.77 million gallons of water. The reuse pump station distributed 12 million gallons in January. There was no meter reads in January. We flushed all the hydrants in January again. We used 350 gallons of chlorine in January. We inspected all pump stations weekly, performed odor control checks, and continued work on upgrades at the plant. We disassembled and removed a booster pump that supplies the RO trains. You have 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
That one was leaking. It was building up corrosion on it. We took it apart, sent it off to have it remanned, and should have it back in next week. So we repaired a leak that was part of an old irrigation system in front of the plant, and the reuse one of the retention ponds out front over there. And we installed some new meters for construction for a new home. We had no accidents or OSHA recordable incidents, and we conducted all of our safety training.
Did your filters come in?
So it has not arrived yet.
Really?
Yeah, we reached out to the engineer, he reached out to the sales rep, and I haven't heard anything back yet. I saw the email, but we're
Do we
still.
have any issues out there whatsoever that we need to be addressing, that we need to be working on or ordering parts for? I mean, everything's going good, right?
No, everything's going good. As far as the plant upgrades or just in general?
Just everything, yeah.
Yeah, in general, well, yeah, so the plant upgrades are still on track to be completed by the deadline set by the DEP.
Okay.
And then, in general, I'm in the process of finding a new ground storage inspection tank, or ground storage tank inspection company. Because the one that we were using is no longer in business, and believe it or not, there's not a lot of people that do that, or else they're really busy. But no, otherwise, everything's in good shape. We're constantly working on the plant. You know, we repair small things here and there, but other than that.
Did you guys look at the, that flush valve on, I think it's the end of this?
Is that the one we need to move, or that we moved?
That you moved, it goes off like every night or every other night?
Yep, I'm looking at that today, so I'll reprogram it.
All right.
Yes.
Rural water,
Huh?
rural water.
For the,
We talked a little bit about rural water, when we joined the rural water.
for the ground storage tank inspection?
Well, no, that was for the meter calibrations and stuff.
Right.
But they're not gonna come and do that evidently.
Oh, no?
Well, you can't get a hold of them.
I haven't got a call back yet. I can call and hound them some more.
All right, we may be looking at, I know last year we joined rural water and they did a couple studies for us. Wasn't too happy with their studies.
No?
No.
So, yeah.
You mean they were incomplete or what?
Well, when it comes to the important stuff like lead and arsenic in the water and things that they had to study, all right? They totally skated the issue. They did 3 pages on, you know, what it is, the bad things about having arsenic or lead in the water. And they wouldn't point fingers to where that may be coming from or how we're gonna go about finding that out or anything else. They just skated the book with this like lip service.
Like everybody else.
And if they don't want to come and do the meters, because that was part of their program that they calibrate all the meters. If they won't come and calibrate the meters, then I recommend at that point, we'll try it till next month. If we can't get a hold and calibrate the meters, I don't want to pay them an annual fee.
I'll reach out to him again and copy you on an email to him.
Okay, and I'll try Josh. He should get back to me.
Okay.
What about that hole that was on Newport Drive over there? Has that been closed up?
No.
No? Who's supposed to do that?
Soto.
Soto?
Soto's been
Yeah.
working on that.
He's been working on it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is taking forever. but-
I'll give him a call.
You're talking about the culvert or the cap, right?
And they like have little flags around it?
No, nothing around it, it's just an open hole, needs a cover. What I'm talking about, like by the hotel miniums and.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It isn't the concrete just slid off.
There's nothing there.
Okay, I'll get a hold of him.
Where is it?
By the hotel minium, right as you pull in Newport, it's on the left. The first one you see on the left.
I'll drive by. and
There's
see what it is.
it's almost like a manhole that has a cement lid to it, but that lid has been slid off.
Is
It just
like a
needs to be pushed back
Storm
on.
drain?
Huh?
Is it like a storm drain?
Yes, it's a storm drain, but someone could fall into it.
I don't honestly remember if the lid's even still there.
I think there's still a lid that's sitting there.
Because it's wide open.
If not, we need to get one.
I'll have one of my maintenance guys in the crane truck down here today, and we can
All right,
move it if we need to.
all right.
I got a couple.
Anything else over there on Newport?
Yeah, I got questions on that. Is there like planned maintenance on those underground culverts, cleaning them out? Do we do that regularly, or, I mean, before rainy season hits?
That's Soto.
He didn't do that.
Yeah, I don't think we handle your stormwater.
Well,
That's Soto.
so pumped all those out? Yeah, because they should probably be, some of them I got down and looked underneath, I couldn't see through.
Well.
Should I invite so?
As long as we're talking about it,
Crooked
Um,
I
I've
can't tell,
asked-
I can't see through. They look like they're straight.
I've asked, the engineer is putting together a map of all the stormwater so that we know exactly what we have to maintain. As soon as I get that, then Soto will start cleaning them out again. He normally does clean them out
And there
before
was-
the rainy season.
I was just riding my bike over there, and there was one driveway that didn't have a pass-through underneath it. Was one for one of the condos, I can't remember which one, on the right-hand side there, it was the only one that didn't have any pipe through it, so
I think that one goes,
maybe, I don't.
it goes
maybe
to
it
a
flows
different area.
way.
It's almost the last one, right? On the
Could
turn.
be the high point that pitches away from you.
Yeah, I think it's close to the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Does the board want me to invite Soto to the next meeting, or not necessary?
Not until we get our paperwork from the engineer.
Very good.
Anything else, Matt?
Oh, yeah, one more thing, so if he doesn't handle that, you know, that, we're talking about the marina, how it always floods.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's two pipes in there, there's two 2-inch
Yeah.
pipes spinning, but they're all full of mud.
Right.
So can we have somebody blow
We
those out?
we
at least,
have
and maybe they'll work?
relationships with vendors. If we need to, Sewer Viewer and Shenandoah are the two that we use, and if we need to jet them out,
They're
and
short.
These are just, these
They're
are,
short. I'm sure Soto will do it. We just told
if
him.
they're really small and he can clean them by hand or
I think he
or with
can.
a garden hose or something like that,
Yeah.
if they're bigger than, they're 2-inch,
yeah, that's all they are, 2-inch.
Might-
for the driveway.
We need to.
Cut through the.
It's where the curb is. It's supposed, because the water backs up onto the curb. They just got a hole through it there and it's supposed to drain
All
out.
right.
I think we need to cut the curb, actually.
Matt, one quick question. Chlorine, you know what the chlorine levels were at the end of Newport versus at the plant, what we're putting in the water?
It drops about 2. So if it's a 3 coming out of the plant, then it's a 1 typically at the end of Newport.
So right now you're running about a 3?
Yeah.
Plant?
A 1 is acceptable?
Yeah,
Okay.
over 0.6 is accepted.
Okay.
When's the last time we did like a, water test at the marina? Just,
I'll have to look at the reports from the lab. I typically only see the ones coming to and from the plant, for the plant, because I have to send them all to the DEP.
I know we did one once because we requested it.
Right.
It's not something we do regular, but now that the water's not flowing that fast, that's
What are you talking about testing exactly?
testing the water in the marina area there.
In the water lines or what?
No, just the,
Oh, you're talking, we do
Just
test.
Just a sample out of the actual.
yeah, E. coli, whatever they check.
Oh, you mean in the canal itself?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know we did that.
Yeah.
It's tested now.
I think it's supposed to be quarterly or.
Quarterly or monthly?
Yeah, I don't remember for sure.
can we,
Off the top of my head.
well, can we get the results when you do
Yeah.
that quarterly?
Yeah.
From now, make that part of the presentation.
Yeah, not a problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
We do have a back truck and that has jetter equipment on it if you do
Okay.
have a situation where you need
All
something
right.
cleaned up.
All good. Thank you.
Yep, but that's all I have.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry I was late. If some of the retention areas are getting a little hairy over there around the plant. I don't
Oh, I
know.
was
We
gonna-
can see when those are gonna get cleaned up.
You want to?
Mowed?
Yeah, I can mow
It's gonna need more than a mower
those.
now.
Retention.
Okay, I'll bring that up to Soto today as well. Or no, Kevin should do that. That's Kevin's deal.
Like bush hog,
Yeah, there's like some 12-foot saplings over there. They're probably that big around.
okay, I need a little hydro-ax, skid loader with a little hydro-ax on the front of it, but
Just a retention pond or any other areas?
Just the retention ponds right now. They did get the well road cut back. And I'm assuming under the power lines, that would be LCEC, right? Along the east side of the plant.
I don't know.
I think they
Probably.
I think they maintain that.
Yeah, probably. So just the retention area.
That's the other thing I was thinking about while we're on it now. We've got a heck of a lot of street lights that are the old style with bulbs in them and the covers are full of bugs and whatnot. That stuff all needs to be maintained. We should call them and ask them to go through that.
Oh, another thing. Does Soto maintain the reject pond out back that's on the gun club property?
Supposed to, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that probably needs attention too.
yeah.
That was one of our retaining ponds, the reject pond.
Reject pond?
That's the old one.
It's across the road on where the gun club is.
As long as you're up here, might as well address it now. I had something for later, but probably better address now.
Sure.
The Parks Department will be coming in to start their phase one, on the Well Road.
Okay.
Phase one is gonna be the berming out in the Everglades.
Okay.
They're gonna be changing the berms around. Not necessarily in our benefit, but, they have some work to do out there, and we've been discussing for years. I'm just gonna get in the whole Park Department thing, it's kind of early for that, but. So anyway, just for now, we'll discuss the rest later, but just for now, know that not this week, but next week, they're gonna be moving in equipment to start going out there and working on that.
Okay.
And then phase two will come where they put the new culverts in the Well Road.
Gotcha.
All right, so that work is gonna start soon.
Cool. Are they raising the well road?
The only thing they said they might do is top it with gravel. We
Okay.
talked about 6 inches of number 4 stone on the whole road to try to prevent it from washing when we get high water.
Yeah, that would be good.
So they're gonna do that before they fix our water lines?
Oh, yeah,
So
possibly, we
if
won't.
FEMA pays it, then we're gonna redo everything that they're gonna do now?
No, because our water lines will be direct bored underneath, it won't bother the culverts.
Oh, okay.
The problem that they're gonna have is putting in the new culverts, they sit right on top of the water line, that's why we have a water line problem, right? And when they go down to change some of those culverts or put the new ones in, they're gonna be, that's their water line, existing water line.
So do we need to come up with an emergency plan if they break one of those water lines?
If they break it, we probably have to do a temporary line relatively quickly.
Well, what about asbestos? Well, the plant would catch the asbestos, wouldn't it?
Yeah, reverse osmosis will take that out.
We should have a contingency plan because you can almost bet they're gonna bust something.
We could be out there if we know when they're gonna be digging it. So we dug all the, we potholed that whole line for the person who was checking for leaks. So we know where it's at and how deep it is, and we can,
Do we know what the pipe, we know what the pipe is so that we could have a replacement, coupler and whatnot? Do we have any of that?
we don't have any spare pipe at the plant for that line.
Okay.
I know it's the older style concrete pipe. So they're a pain in the butt to,
Well, would you just put a sleeve on them?
yeah, it would be some sort of sleeve. Yeah.
How
I'll
long?
look into.
Well, what I'm wondering about is how, if they break that, how long will it take us to get something to fix that?
You could do a temporary,
That's what he's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that could be rubber.
yeah,
PVC,
so
anything.
we would figure it out pretty quickly. I mean, we would make something happen, even if it was a temporary fix, and then we came back and permanently fixed it.
Well, I'm just thinking if it doesn't cost too much money, maybe we should buy those emergency parts and have them,
Sure.
no?
I don't think so. This is getting ahead of ourselves again. FEMA's actually moving forward. We expect numbers next week on the new water line.
Oh, great.
They're moving towards a new water line,
That'd be
which
great.
is awesome to hear because up until now it's been repair. And they're gonna have some numbers to us next week, according to, we just had a talk with them yesterday. So when those numbers come in, it's either gonna be a go or back going at them again if the numbers aren't enough. But if they're talking a new line, and I asked them that specifically yesterday, we are talking a new water line here, and he said, yes, we are. And they have to cost that out themselves, they can't take our estimates. So we have contractor estimates on that, it's like 1.2 million.
Wow.
They have to cost it out, but if they're costing out a new line and they come to us and say, well, we can get it done for 800,000 or we'll give you 800,000, then I'm just gonna look at FEMA and say, fine, do it. Right?
Sure.
It's a HDP 10-inch water line,
Yeah,
all right? There's, if you can do it for 800, put it in.
sure.
But they're going in the direction of doing that. So we're actually winning one of the bigger grants at this point. Now, that doesn't mean we have it. Like I always tell you, until it's in the bank, we don't have it. But we've been in a lot worse position with this. They've been fighting us hard, and now they've come across. So we have a meeting now with a bunch of their people
Next week.
But that's where they're going, that's the direction it's going. So rather than buy parts, if they're gonna give us a green light to go, we could try to get that in before this hurricane season. So, right, Kevin?
It'd be great. And the whole reason for the FEMA stuff moving forward is because of the tenacious efforts by these two guys. They just haven't taken no for an answer. And they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's getting better and better for us. So thank you.
Thank you for all the time you spend on
Let's
it.
get some good news for a change.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Have a good one.
Take a cookie, Matt.
Did you see me look at him?
I'd take a couple.
Thank you.
Takes us down to item 6A under the manager's report today. A couple of updates for you. I met with the county manager and the deputy county manager probably 2 weeks ago, primarily to discuss the acquisition of the old hotel site or having it declared surplus. The county manager seems to be inclined to ask us to consider an unsolicited proposal to purchase the site for the cost that they have in it associated with demolition. And I don't know that they have any other out-of-pocket cost. The number that I was told when we first brought this up over a year ago was that the county spent about $450,000 in demolition and removal of the old hotel when it was in their hands and was condemned. And so there's an opportunity, whether it exists with the current developer or a subsequent developer, to enlarge the main parcel. But moving forward, I think we need a little direction to maybe ask Zach to prepare a draft offer of purchase to submit to the county for the old hotel site if the board remains interested.
Okay, so here's where we stand. MI Homes ended their agreement with Lindsay Case. That deal fell through. Now, whether it's permanent or not, I don't know. They may have terminated it to go back at it to get a better deal. Their problem is noise from the gun club and the potential of pollution from the gun club. That's what has turned them off. Now, we were pushing to get the 7 acres of the old hotel site from the county because MI Homes would like to have put like 23 homes on that property. I would like us to see if we were able to buy that for $450,000. I think that would be a no-brainer, even if we had to go and just borrow that money from those low-interest loans or whatever it is, because anything could end up in there, but for the most part is that land's worth a lot more than $450,000.
We also have control over it.
Yes.
Well, it does a couple things for us. One, under their new plan, when they incorporated that 6 acres in a kind of an idea of what it would look like if they could, MI Homes could have purchased that, it changed the roads. All right, it was easier for them to put their roads through there. It was a much better flow. So anybody that comes through, if MI Homes does leave entirely and we have a new company come in or something, having that land there and available, they used to have to plan their division around it. With that in there, it just makes it a much more workable piece of land. So it's more attractive to anybody that we'd have in the future that would come in and build that too.
So my question is, I know when we bought the property over there on Kay's Drive, there was some pushback because of us spending money. How does the board or how does the community feel about buying that property for $450,000 if that's what we can get it for? Do we want to move forward with that? I'm looking for opinions.
I'm for it.
Okay? Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah.
Kathy Oswald, Sunset K Lakes. My concern is, do we have any guarantee on the old land because of how old that building was? Do we have any guarantee that there's no asbestos or hazardous materials that were buried under that land when they cleared it?
No, but we can find that out.
Yeah,
But I know that's part of what why it costs so much over there, because there was some in there and they
Yes,
had to
say
haul
they
it away.
cleaned it up. I'm just
Yeah.
worried that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, we should do a phase one on that.
yeah, there would be a due diligence period in the event that the county is interested, the county commissioners, and there would be an investigation period, and we'd have an opportunity to determine what, if any, risk is associated with it.
They probably have a report on it.
So do we want to authorize Zach to make this offer?
Suggestion would be for him to draft something that we could present to y'all next month at the regular meeting, give you a chance to mull that over.
Could you do that for us, Zach, please?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Do we need to discuss, but as part of that contract offer, do we need to discuss a little bit on the financing side of this? Is this something that we're going to amend the budget for? Or are we talking about floating a bond? Because that's going to dictate how I draft the offer.
I think,
I don't wanna float on that.
Well, right now, we've got enough money
Right.
to do it.
And we've got so much interest on that money.
yeah, the cost of issuance of a bond would in no way be worth the amount of money that we're talking about.
The only reason why I brought it up was I heard the chair reference low interest loans, so I wasn't sure what that was a reference to as far as source of funds.
Okay.
I don't think we apply.
No, we won't do that. Go ahead.
Now, with that land, why didn't the developer buy it if it was such a good deal? If he needed that make that part of his investment?
The
why
county
didn't he
wouldn't
buy it?
sell it.
They wouldn't sell it to
No.
him?
They'll
No.
sell it to us, right?
Okay, and second, and more than anything, that land is not as valuable as people are putting it. If you live in Orchid Cove and you hear that gun club, you don't want to be any closer than we are. You can't sit outside on a Sunday morning because you hear pop, 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 pop all morning, and it's really bad back there. And not to mention, what nobody mentions is it's right next to the sewer plant. And when that wind blows a certain way, it's not pleasant to be back there. So, that land is not as valuable as everybody, that's where everything falls through. They find out what it really is.
I know MI Homes went to the county and they were really trying hard to get it. But the county they were proposing low-income housing on there. They were proposing police training
academy,
station
right.
and maybe fire thing and whatever, but there's,
I mean, we always go through the low-income housing thing, but it's like, this area is not good for low-income housing because you don't have the transportation. That's what made them buy that property to begin with, because they were afraid low-income housing was going to go in, so they're doing it so they could control what goes on it. I just don't want to buy more property. We have so much, and now we're talking more property. What do we get out of it? Nothing. We just spend money on it. I mean, that sits there. It could, everybody's dying for a restaurant that would be stable. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to put that up for sale and say it's commercial property, somebody put a restaurant on it? So that we have, because everybody's enjoying that restaurant in the hotel so much, that wouldn't it be nice to have a building where somebody could put a restaurant in, and, that, to me, that's a good investment, because everybody's here is dying for it.
you're talking about a community center.
Community center restaurant.
Well, a community center restaurant doesn't, it has to be somebody that owns a restaurant, commercial property. We have,
There again, the CID can't really get into,
but you could put it up for sale.
huh?
You could put it up for sale.
You mean the one that we bought over there?
Yes,
Yeah, we could.
thank you.
You got it.
Item B today, and behind the next tab, is a proposal for a engineering and hydraulic analysis. This was a condition of the renewal of your wastewater treatment plant permit, specifically to further evaluate and do some testing associated with the monitoring well there that does show high levels of lead and arsenic adjacent to the reclaimed water pad. So we talked briefly about this before. My understanding is that we would be the direct client here. We're not going to run this through our civil engineer. and have them mark it up as a sub-consultant. The total scope of work and the tasks are outlined in the proposal. I'm talking about $17,800. Anita, this exceeds my authority, so it's why it's on the agenda today.
I'd like to explain something about that. So we had some talk with the DEP over the last year or more about that land and about our test well coming up.
What's the DEP?
The Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Florida. So with ongoing talks, we asked the DEP to come in and do some testing and take care of that because we've tested our facility building, we've tested our effluent, we've tested our brine that comes off the reverse osmosis, we tested our well water going in, and we are not polluting the land, all right? So that's what our test wells are there for. By permit to have our water sewer plant, we have to test. And we're not polluting it. So we asked the DEP to come in and find out where the lead and arsenic's coming from. And they just don't want to do it. So I went to the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency with the federal government. They said that that's a state issue. And they said we fund them, so we'll tell them to take care of it. So we went back to the DEP, and their answer was to throw that into our permit, the testing. So we are required to have this testing done by August, or we're in violation of our permit for our water sewer plant. So it sounds like we have a choice to get this study done. Actually, we really don't have a choice. We have to have the results to the Department of Environmental Protection by August. So we have to do it. So we're kind of stuck. The DEP threw it back at us because, in my opinion, they don't want to do their job.
And we need to know how much pollution is happening out there, because if MI Homes comes back or the next buyer comes back, they're going to want documentation showing that this has been addressed.
So I don't think there's any choice in this. I think we have to do it. It's in our permit now. And
You want to make a motion to
yes,
move forward?
I'd make a motion that we move forward with the hydrology study as we're talking about here with Johnson Engineering for 17,000 something.
890.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Item 6C,
Wait, just one more thing. It says that we're gonna find the source and origin of this, right?
Of the pollution?
Right.
That's what we're hoping to do, yes.
Well, that's the whole goal there. So, what happens when we get that? And they say, naturally, the most obvious one is usually gonna be the gun club. So
Well, once you get those results, then you can push them off, back to the DEP and stuff, and, then it'll be pretty hard for them to ignore it. But, yeah,
We'll see.
yeah,
We,
so just a wait and see.
we have to do it at this point, and
No,
we might even have trouble with that because we have to be able to do the
come on
test.
up.
Morning.
Morning.
Joe Levy on Windward K. I'd like to know, if you can ask the attorney, do we have recourse if we do find the culprit of this contamination? Since we're spending money on all these tests?
Very good.
Thank you.
Zach, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, the opinion will depend on what the tests show. So if there is a way to trace the contamination to the point source, there's typically an ability to find recourse, but we don't know what we don't know. And at this point, it's a permit condition and we have to keep in compliance with our permit. So that will be a conversation that's going to have to be had, but we need to first get the data.
So the answer is maybe.
Yeah, at this point, we don't know. We've asked them to do that study themselves, and until we prove with this study that where it's coming from, it's not us, it's ours.
If I were the gun club, I would be trying to do my own studies to make sure that it wasn't me.
I can't see them paying 17 grand in a study on it.
Did you just pull it up? Okay.
I think we had a motion and a second. Did we vote?
We did. We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Item C today, again, several weeks ago, Zach and I had an opportunity to have a teleconference with the South Florida Water Management District over the license agreement to use the district's parcel that is adjacent to the boat basin that we've talked about before. We used that opportunity also to ask their local offices to evaluate a shoal that exists within the canal at low tide that seems to be attributable to that, and they have agreed to follow up with their maintenance crews and address that.
They may dredge that?
They possibly.
Ooh,
That was the way that we presented that.
great.
I was busy yesterday. There was a flurry of emails back and forth, and Zach, I'll just need your help here. I think we have presented to them your standard license agreement. They have suggested some other revisions to that, but to also include a fairly substantial license or use fee with that. So Zach, if you don't mind, just since I was not able to participate in any calls or emails yesterday afternoon, can you just kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, at a high level, they provided edits that modify this from a license agreement to an easement, extend the term, modify some of the operating hours. But I think what might be helpful here is to have Mr. Schaefer from South Florida Water Management District give a little bit of a summary of why they requested what changes so that we can understand it from the request itself. And then perhaps they could also talk a little bit about the project that they're trying to achieve here and why it's important that the changes that they requested map onto their project. So, Mr. Schaefer, I see that you're on the call.
That's a good point, and we should probably get them to tell us exactly what they're planning to do over there, and then we should get input from the community as to whether or not we should be allowing it.
Well, and so the South Florida is here on the call. Mr. Schaefer is on the Zoom here, and I think one of the main topics, it's a fill in the blank topic, is what is the appropriate fee for this usage. But I think to understand how to get to that point, it'd be helpful if Mr. Schaefer explained.
Yeah. Good morning, board members and Neil and Zach. I'll just introduce my group here. I appreciate you giving us the time to have this presented. I'm Bob Schaefer with the South Florida Water Management District. I'm the acquisitions lead for the Real Estate Bureau. I also have Ashi Akpoji. He's the engineering and construction manager for this project, and Holly Andriotti. She's the permitting and wildlife manager for the project. And Zach, do you think I should get right into the easement or want to hear just a little bit about the project detail?
I think it'd be helpful if you just did a little overview on what the project is and then get into the easement.
Do you want to, Holly?
So hi, my name is Holly Andriotta. I'm the permitting and compliance lead for the district and also listed species wildlife lead. The project, the manatee mitigation feature itself, is a mitigation feature for warm water refugia for manatee. It has, it was a requirement of our federal and state permits to build this, and it was completed in 2016. After Hurricane Ian and Irma, we saw significant issues with the feature that are in need of repair. It was a lot of sedimentation, erosion, and some sedimentation within the oxbow and the pools within the feature as well that are creating, shoaling and all kinds of issues in relation to how it's supposed to operate with the intent of providing a warm water habitat for manatees. So we have to go back in, it's mandated, we have to do this in order to supply manatees with this warm water refugia. And we've been working with the Fish and Wildlife Commission and the service, the Corps, and DEP to come up with a plan for these repairs because Irma and Ian, it gave us significant damage. So what we're going to do is the first phase, we have to go in and dredge the oxbow in the 3 pools. The oxbow has about 1 to 2 feet of sediment, and the 3 pools that are the warming aspects that come up upwelling has about 5 to 6 feet of sediment. So we'll be dredging that out and placing the material on the feature in the uplands. And then we also have to come back and fix the erosion and sedimentation on the side slopes and on the south connection, where you boaters probably see some of that shoaling that was brought up right by the boat barrier there. And then we're going to place riprap to prevent future erosion and sedimentation in the future. So we have to do the project. We have, secured the funding to do so, and we've already applied for the permits. This is considered maintenance of the feature. And so what Yashi and, Bob are here for is to try to get, access to that property up by the road to use as our laydown maintenance area and staging, so we can get the material onto a barge, have a small trailer, and get all that and equipment down to the feature. Because as you know, it's an island, it's very difficult to access and it's very difficult to maintain. So we kind of need this piece with this piece of property up by the road in order to make the necessary repairs for the feature. Do you have any questions about the actual project?
So from what I'm understanding is we've got some high spots in front of that that they were hoping that they could get dredged out of there because our boats are having a hard time getting through there. Is that something that we could work with you on?
So I think I need to understand what the high spots you're referring to is, because there is no access inside of the feature. It's off limits to the public. There is some sedimentation that on the very south connection where the boat barrier is, that will be dredged out back to the original as-built. No further extent can be done past the original as-built, but there is sedimentation right there at that southern boat barrier. But no boat should be getting up into the feature. I know we have a lot of issues with someone cutting the boat barriers and accessing the feature that we have to keep dealing with and fixing the boat barrier. But yeah, any sediment that's at that south connection will be dredged back out to original as-built.
No, I was actually talking about in the channel, which you're obviously not able to do, right?
No, that's not, if it's not related to the feature, our permits would not cover that for these repairs, or the funding is just specific to the repairs of the feature.
I just want to be clear, are you talking about the south side of the refugia or the north side where we have a culvert structure?
So south side?
Okay.
I think if maybe you could send us a pin or a map or something so we can see exactly what you're talking about, we can determine if it's part of the construction efforts to repair the feature or not.
We can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely on the south side, as we go into the future there, we're going to be dredging that and stabilizing that with riprap such that wave action and boat actions would not create more sediments into the future. So that part will be stabilized.
Okay, very good. Anybody else here have any questions?
Just wondering what they're gonna do for us, and that we're gonna do this for them.
I'm sure, ma'am.
I'm Rita Bradkey from Orchid Cove. I'm new to this issue, but I'm just interested, is there anybody monitoring how many manatees this serves?
Yes, so part of the Picayune Strand project to the north is to reduce those freshwater flows that are coming down the Faka Union Canal that are impacting the ecology of Florida Bay and the environment. And so it's a restoration project to the north in Picayune Strand. Because we're getting rid of those flows, those harmful flows, those flows were inadvertently acting as a warm water refugia for manatee. So by taking, that warm water refugia, although it was artificial and unintended because of previous, attempts at developing that land up there by somebody, we had to create this manatee mitigation project to provide warm water refugia. So the district and FWC are routinely monitoring the Port of the Islands Basin, as well as that whole canal south of that, the Faki Union Canal, including the manatee mitigation project. The service and the commission and the district are heavily involved with monitoring efforts in that area.
But what is the number?
So right now, since there's still flows coming over the Faki Union Weir just north of the road, and the last plug to plug that off isn't set to be installed by the Corps, I think it's January, there's still a warm water refugia coming over the weir over by the road. So most of the manatees, you know, they're like elephants. They teach their offspring and they learn to go back to certain refugia over many decades. So a lot of them are still going up to the Port of the Islands Basin and utilizing the existing warm water refugia still coming down. But once that plug is in place, we're still going to be monitoring the temperatures and everything up there, and manatee observers are going to be present and doing manatee monitoring up there. But we built this so early in 2016 because they need, the manatees per FWC in the service need time to learn where it is and to find it. So we've had, I think, up to 20 or so manatees maybe at any given time, usually in the colder months, accessing the site. There's been crocodiles, there's been dolphins documented in there, but we're still, you know, they're still learning where it is and learning how to get there. But since the northern area is still providing that warm water habitat, most of them are still going up towards the marina.
I think why she's bringing this up is the guy that does the manatee tours here was at the last meeting, and he flies a drone down the canal to see where the manatees are for his tours. And he made the remark that he rarely sees a manatee in that structure.
We do get observations, but again, because they're so used to going up towards the marina, and the warm water refugia is still coming down because all the plugs aren't in place to the north, they're still going up there. So in January, that last plug is supposed to come in to help reduce even more flows coming down. And we're going to probably see less of a warm water refugia up there. Who knows, we may still get in the ranges of the temperatures that are still serving as an artificial refugia up there, but we didn't know based on the project, so we were required to create this mitigation project. So the temperatures in the pools are similar to what's coming up to north, sometimes even warmer. So the refugia is there for them, and over time they're just going to have to learn to go there and to discover it. It takes them a while, and that's kind of a problem across the whole state with creating additional warm water refugia or giving them access to old refugia that was maybe blocked off by man-made structures at some point, and them not knowing where those things are as we provide additional access now as we talk about these things across the whole state and big workshops, interagency workshops, to create and discover more artificial refugia.
So are we thinking that when they put that last plug in, that our canal coming from the north is going to have very little flow through it?
Well, the whole point of the Picayune Strand project to the north, which was like an old development that had a ton of canals, it was harming the downstream ecology. And the whole restoration project has been modeled for probably 3 decades or more. And so you're not going to see, the flows are going to be similar, but I'm not involved with the modeling of this, but this goes back 3 decades or more. You know, my involvement is the wildlife aspect, the manatees, other marine environment and ESA listed species, as well as getting the permits to make sure we're covered to do the maintenance repairs.
Yeah, I know that the people in Orchid Cove who depend on that water flow to keep the water in front of their community are concerned about not having the flows anymore. And
this should not impact boaters or navigation.
That will not impact them.
This isn't.
Engineering wise, if you recall, the three main canals coming from 75, Faka Union, Miller, and which is the other one again? Faka Union, right? Miller and Merritt. Those three major canals, as they come to the south before the port of the islands, they actually converge. They converge and become one canal before it comes down to POI. So you'll still be having enough water for what you need, except that north of it, we're going to spread the water so it does not come through the three major canals anymore, but continues over the 55,000 acres and provide the hydrology and the hydro period that we need for the overall restoration.
so basically then these folks from Orchid Cove shouldn't have to worry about the flow getting low enough to affect them.
Not at all, not that amount. Yeah.
Very good.
But when we built this structure, we had this piece of land that Bob Schaefer is proposing, for us to use. That was a laydown area back in the day when we constructed the mitigation feature. So it's really the only piece of property available to us to set up a small construction trailer, get the barge and park the barge in for the short time we're going to be doing this work, and being able to load the fill and riprap that we need to make the repairs. This is really the only footprint available to us to do that.
Holly, if I can, let's get the other two issues out on the table here from the board's perspective, and then if we have some additional comments, we can. Bob, can you speak to the desire for the easement and the rationale behind the easement as opposed to our standard license agreement, and the length of time and what the district is offering by way of compensation for the construction easement?
Sure, thank you. The main big picture issue of easement versus license is the fact that, this is a publicly funded project, and the district is gonna, and I apologize, creature habit, when I say the district, we all here refer to us as the district, but so when I say the district, that's South Florida Water Management. So the district is gonna commit public funds and enter into a contract and begin a project that we have to rely on the fact that the access to the land has to be continual. The thing with a license is a license can be terminated at any time. And the conditions, again, of your normal license agreement, which, is a great agreement. And I've told Zach, I might use some of those provisions for future things. So, but easement versus license, the easement, of course, is the permanent interest for as long as this term goes. And we're proposing 18 months from when we start. And in the midst of it, the key reason, again, is various provisions of your license circumstances could arise, and our right to the land could terminate. And we just, like I said, cannot make the commitment to this project and have any chance. And easement is a permanent interest for that period of time.
Understood. And then can you speak quickly to the proposed fee that I had seen in some correspondence?
And normally when we do these type of easement agreements, and of course pay money for them, again, which our governing board has to approve, and the site is usually exclusive to us. And the important aspect of that, from a use standpoint, is we don't want mixed use with in the middle of what we're doing. So generally, again, it's exclusive because of security. Again, keeping the materials and whatever we're going to have on site exclusive to us, and also the time periods. Our contractors start early in the morning and go through the day, and we generally don't have a restriction because of, we like to try to get the projects done as quickly and expeditiously as possible, get them started, not cut the contractor hours down. So big picture offer, as Neil was talking about, we'd like the property. This is all kind of under our usual MO of getting exclusive use and having, a wide range of times and days to use the property. And based on an 18-month from the time we would start construction, what I had mentioned to Zach and Neil, again, subject to board approval, we think we could get to perhaps like a $50,000 number.
It's funny you say that, because if you want exclusive rights, we bought that property just recently for $550,000, basically for the use of the people,
Right.
which won't be able to be put on there any longer. And then, of course, if we were able to sell that land, we would get assessments off of it. And I did a quick thing this morning, and I was looking at somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 would be the carrying cost for us to have that. So we're definitely in the ballpark.
Zach,
Bob, if I can
is
ask a clarifying question, on the 50,000, is that contemplating the current draft, which is non-exclusive and has contractor hours, or is that contemplating a revision with exclusive use and no contractor hours?
they're asking.
Yeah, to help sell this to the governing board, I was contemplating a maximum a change of the terms, if possible, to get it exclusive for the reasons I stated. If it wasn't exclusive, then it would boil down to still the area that we're using. We'd still have to, keep the security would be a concern and interaction of anybody else within our site. So, yeah, ideally, we're looking for exclusive use. If that is not possible, I guess, obviously we'll consider whatever you propose, but we'd like it exclusive, sure.
And what about the contractor hours? Sorry about that.
We're asking about hours, because we've got a lot of residents next door to it.
Yeah, I had changed that to allow us to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Your standard license has pretty much a 9 to 5. Again, for the reasons I was saying, our contractors, like a lot of contractors in any type of construction business and all, they start as early as possible. So we'd like it, and that is pretty important, to be able to start early in the morning, and then go a little bit extended. I know you had 5. I think 6, at least 6 o'clock would be better if we had to have them cut off at that time.
Is that
And I want to add that my contractors, usually when I'm out there in the field, they have safety meetings like that 7 o'clock, 7:30, and sometimes they leave by 3:30 too. But sometimes they may need to work for some days as late as 6 p.m. Just be sure they finish on time. And these 18 months we are talking about, I do not anticipate we're going to be out there for up to 18 months. I'm going to make sure my contractors do due diligence and finish and be out of there as soon as possible.
And we are pressed for time because we want the dredging work especially to be done as soon as possible. So the warm water refugia for the manatee is operating at its optimum level. We think some of the sediment within the pools due to these major storm events may be preventing some of that warm water refugia from coming up, since there's 5 to 6 feet of sediment in it. So we really want to make sure that we get done with especially the dredging and most of the repair work before the next cold season, because it does have to be available to manatee by December 1st. So we're really under the gun to get all this in place and to get started. And we are trying to work as quickly as possible because of the manatee requirements.
Would you be looking to work on Sundays as well?
Usually we have them work on calendar days, but they don't work on Saturdays and Sundays mostly. They don't.
Yeah.
But by contract, their contracts are based on calendar days, means 7 days a week.
Okay, so I guess we're to the point, we're trying to coalesce this, we're trying to work with district staff for a variety of reasons, but trying to coalesce your thoughts here today to move this thing along or to the next level.
Oh, did they mention too that we do have fresh water hookups there? We could put a meter up for you if you need water?
Oh, that'd be good. If we don't need to bring our own water, we can connect to your fresh water and pay for it. And if you have electricity to give to us, we could also connect to that and pay for it. And again, my contractors work very diligently. Safety is very important. They keep the site very, very clean. I do inspections to be sure that they are clean and the site is clean.
Yeah, we do have a meter spot on that property that you could hook up. When they built the place, they had a trailer right next to it, actually.
We will purchase the water and buy it from you definitely during that time and pay it promptly.
All right.
Zach has reviewed the easement document. I think that he is comfortable with that. The firm has also, developed what has been a very good license agreement for us now. But Zach, is it fair to say you are comfortable with a construction easement subject to the board's final review at that location?
Certainly, as long as we're all on the same page about the deal points. I think what I heard is the district is looking for exclusive use, which I think the board needs to be comfortable with. I think I heard that the district, South Florida Water Management District, is okay with our restrictions as long as they are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. as opposed to, and that's 7 days a week in the easement. So as long as we're clear about that, that's what they're offering. And I think I just want to clear up on the dredging outside of the actual project. It sounds like that's not an option based on their permitting. So as long as we're all on the same page about some of these major points, it's certainly within the district's discretion. I think there's plenty of protections in the agreement. Although I will note that the security deposit was removed, but there remains an obligation to leave the site in the condition it was found.
That was my next question. When you're done with it, would you landscape it and plant it back to grass?
We will restore to the existing condition or better.
Perfect.
We've talked to them about that.
Good.
As well as a pre and post inspection of the adjacent seawall.
Okay.
Are there any trees that you need to remove to get to where they need to be?
Yeah, because they were gonna remove trees and we didn't mark them.
You don't need to remove the oak trees and so forth that we have there, do you?
No, we do not need to remove them.
Okay.
We've got some people in the audience that want to say something.
Yeah,
Can we make it really quick, please? Anybody?
Well,
Rick? Go ahead.
It kind of sounds to me like the train's already left the station on this, huh?
I'll need your name for the record. All of our minutes are transcribed.
That's fine, sir.
not yet, we didn't vote on it, so.
Richard Mishler. I'm a resident of Port of the Islands, or put it this way, landowner here at Port of the Islands. I've been here since 2001 and had several different places. And I was here when the construction was going on this manatee project. And I'd like to know that the lady that spoke, was she here during that time? Were you employed?
I was.
Yeah.
I've been with this project since before construction.
Okay.
I was part of the observers during all the original blasting and, making sure there's qualified manatee observers on the site and the barge as they go up and down the canal. So yeah, I was here involved.
Okay, so one of the things is when it was about half done, we got about a 5-inch rain one night and it washed everything out. And then you came back in and you sodded and the sod washed away because the rain wasn't done yet. So my question is, how often are you gonna need to do this? And what are the alternatives if the CID does not rent you that piece of ground?
They don't really have.
And are we under the or how would I say, are we obligated to do Southwest Florida Water Management a favor?
We
do this?
To answer that?
Are there penalties or not legal penalties, but
No.
Anything we ask for in the future going nowhere because we didn't cooperate on this project with them?
We are involved with these folks on other projects.
Okay.
And it is to our advantage to work with them as well as them working with us. Do we have to do it? No, they really don't have another choice. But now that they came up with this $50,000+,
Money talks.
well, the thing of it is, now we're made whole again. You know, there's a lot of folks who were saying we shouldn't have spent this money and whatnot. Well, for at least the time that they're using this, we're made whole.
I guess, okay, that's one. The separate thing that I have is, I think this Manatee project, you people have done a very poor job of selling it to the people that live here. I don't know one person that thinks it's good. Right after it was built, you put up no trespassing signs and everything, and it's like a big secret down there. And I don't know if the Manatees really care whether there's people in there or not, because they lay right underneath my dock where I currently reside. So it's just, I think you've done a poor job of selling the project to the people who live here. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, with that, the Picking and Strand Restoration Project is actually an Army Corps project. And we were just partners in working with the Manatee mitigation feature portion and designing and building it for the Corps. So at the marina at POI, in the back of the gift shop there is supposed to be an education center. I've been there many times and it's not there. It's being used as a storage room. I think that's on the Corps or whoever else, you know, part of that permit condition of the Corps. But it's the Picking and Strand Restoration Project is a Corps project. We were just involved with the Manatee mitigation feature portion of it. So I think any of that educational outreach is really on the Corps. As far as access, the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Fish and Wildlife Commission, both the federal and state wildlife agencies, they dictated the conditions about public use and access, not us. So that's on the wildlife agencies, and we're complying with that because of their requirements. So the district can't really speak to that. It's something that's in a Corps permit. It's dictated by the Corps project and the requirements based in those bigger permits for the Picking Strand Restoration Project. So I'm not sure really what the district can do about that.
Understood.
They're going to do this. One way or the other, they're going to do this. So we need to figure out how do we work with them the best that we can.
Staff is inclined to recommend the easement subject to Zach's final review for the reasons that we've discussed. Your ability to control the times and the circumstances and the use there, you know, they are aware of the fact that the Board of County Commissioners owns a less suitable location adjacent to the marina and south of the fuel station there. That would be a worst case scenario, and you would lose any ability to control the
shut the marina down
conditions and that sort of thing. So I think this is the better mechanism and vehicle to move this particular project that is essential through and make sure that you have the the protections so that we can control the noise and the types of power generation and the things that have been discussed previously.
I personally would like to see if we couldn't get up to that $60,000 area.
Yeah, this is Bob. If you want me to speak to that?
Please?
Yeah. Whatever your ultimate decision is as the board, then, like I said, whatever the final document is and final decision of your board, I'll have to take that and go get to my governing board meeting at the appropriate time and sell it.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Well, I mean, before we move on, I just need to make sure we have direction on this. Are you countering at 60? What are we doing here?
Well, I'd like to discuss one thing is the hours. We have a bedroom community right up against the construction project. And I think that we have to be sympathetic to those buildings that have their bedrooms right there.
I think we have
So
made it
ours
abundantly clear that as they're loading, riprap, rock onto a barge with a front end loader, it's not going to be before 7 a.m. in the morning any more than the electricity for the site is not going to be a diesel generator that gets fired up and shut down. They're going to have to make application for a construction pole and have a meter and have a permanent source of power, or semi-permanent source of power there.
Let me ask
What?
one question. Is 7 o'clock a good time or should it be a little later? What do you think? If it was your bedroom, 7, fine?
Well, usually 7 o'clock is when they arrive to the site. They always have a safety meeting and a briefing, and they do some office kind of day-to-day checkpoints on the schedule, the intent of the day. So usually you have like between 7 and 8 where they're just arriving to the site and prepping for the day and talking and having the safety meetings. You don't necessarily have like the loading of the barges with the riprap at 7. So, people have to get situated, just like when you go into any normal job. You get there, you settle, you talk about the day, and then you start implementing the day. So it usually takes about an hour to do that. So them arriving at 7, probably not likely to see activity until about 8.
Well, the thing is with these contractors, living out here in Port of the Islands, these guys are coming from ways away, most of them. And they like to get here very early in the morning to beat the traffic. Joe's people, it's not uncommon for them to be up here real early in the morning. So if we could get them pushed back to 7 o'clock, I think would be to an advantage for us.
Depending on how they set up the site too.
Yeah.
The noise starts at 8, the noise starts at 7:30.
If they were building condos over there, they're legally allowed to start at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock,
It doesn't,
okay.
that's the legal time that we can start construction, 7 a.m.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks,
Like I
Jim.
said, also depending on how they set up the site.
The other
With the office.
The other thing I'm thinking of is, something may come up at some point where we haven't figured out what's going on. Maybe all of a sudden there's dust coming out of there, or there's too much, and we have an issue. How do we go to you folks and address those issues, even though we've already got this easement there? I mean, because we're going to have somebody who's going to come and they're going to complain that they don't like this or that. Is there some type of a mechanism that we could place in there where we could have some input on if we're having an issue?
Yeah, we would have a project manager on site every day. And you have my contact number and my project manager on site. So if there's anything like dust, we can do containment, and we know we can do watering of the site so we do not generate too much dust in the area. So you would have a contact person to speak with at all times.
But my suggestion is that the rules need to be set forth in the easement itself, as opposed to relying upon sort of ad hoc discussions later. Right? So if we have concerns, I think it's fair to both parties that we put them in the easement itself.
I agree with
Also,
you.
in our spec text, our contract documents, there is a specification on dust control that the contractors are required to abide to, and the project manager on site implements, as well as when I come to the site with DEP for inspections, I'm going to be watching it as well. So that's all outlined in our contract documents with the consultants that are going to be doing the actual work. If there's a contact with your board, and you can identify a point of contact on your board, and we can identify the PM. So if there's any complaints, your POC can contact our POC, and we have a one-to-one communication on any complaints that you have. I think that's a good way to move forward with any issues you might have.
What I'm hearing here is that, okay, sorry.
To get going? When would you need the property?
When do they need the property?
We anticipate to need a property about August, September this year.
Oh, this fall.
Yes,
okay.
This fall. Yeah.
And so
that helps provide, sorry.
If we start August, September, we need to have all the dredging done by December 1st. or we have kind of a phased approach with the commission, with the manatees, to make sure they have access to all pools or some pools. But yeah, we have some deadlines to meet with FWC on manatee access. So we're trying to get a lot of the dredging complete before the December deadline.
So keeping those deadlines in mind, my recommendation, unless Mr. Schaefer, unless this is not going to work, I can make the edits that I'm hearing from the board now into the document, and and you and I can try to get to an agreement on that, and then they can approve this at their next board meeting. Does that work time schedule wise?
Your next board meeting is a month from now?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
What's the next deadline?
Now, are you folks comfortable with this? I mean, is the $60,000 and the 7 to 6 and so forth, is that acceptable?
Everybody else starts at 7.
Sounds good.
Real quick.
I just want to say real quick, those that don't think these oxbows don't work, I can tell you I've fished all over the state of Florida. I've seen these oxbows. They do work. They
Okay.
are very beneficial.
All right, thank you for that.
One thing is I just want to add dust control, that's all. And they can wet the piles if it gets really dusty.
That's a requirement.
Yeah,
Saying
I don't foresee problems, but you know what? Problems do arise.
Good.
Bob, could you send me the contract language you have that you put in your subcontracts for the dust control?
Last one, Deb.
Deborah Jansen, Sunrise. I specifically would like to make a contact with the group, especially I believe it's Andrea who's been speaking. I've been here for 20 years and I knew Jim Reed, who was doing manatee surveys in this area. And 20 years ago, his counts during some of the cold weather times were 500 manatees in our basin. And I know there's not that many at all anymore. And I've been trying to get information from FWC to find out just what is going on with manatees that have used this sanctuary for the past 20 years and why have things changed. So what I'm mainly asking for is a contact with the people who are at that table
They
to
do
get some
have
of
a
these
website.
answers. Andrea, was it?
Would you be interested in Deb?
My name's Holly Andriotta, and I can provide my email address somehow. Is there a chat in this or?
We can do that later.
Yeah, and
Do it after the meeting. I'll get it. I'll get it.
okay, Bob Schaefer will get you my email contact, and then I can help you get connected with someone at FWC to get that historical data and some updates from them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
I think, Bob, with that, staff has our marching orders. We'll look to get this in final form, distributed in advance, and hopefully be able to assist you guys as necessary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and giving
I'm
us
glad
the opportunity.
It helped a lot.
With that, Mr. Chairman, it takes us down to
Thank you.
6D rather was a redundant item. We've already discussed the utility receivables. I passed out separately today. I'm down to 6E now. The summary of the utility rate commission and study that we did earlier next year. And just as a talking point, if you'll go to page 16, a little hard to read, but about 3 pages in there. This really is kind of where the rubber meets the road. And it shows you a hypothetical rate that would be required to fully implement the recommendations of the study for both the base rate as well as the short-term capital items that are in your 5-year plan. And so I say all of this to say that if you look at the proposed rates and you take into account, I just take 5,000 gallons per month for a single-family home. That's going to take a bi-monthly bill of up to about $310. There will be some shock value associated with that for people who are accustomed to you know, they've forgotten all about the fact that they're subsidizing this system through their property tax bill and the non-ad valorem assessment, which this year was $1,130, and that hasn't really changed in a long time. I went back 5 years, and so the assessment has not changed, but there will be some. They're going to claim they never knew, they didn't know the rates were being, you know, discussed, and even though you've had a full-blown study engaged in a presentation and 2 workshops, and the full study's on the website. I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts today, say between now and October, when the new fiscal year begins. What do you want staff to do next, or?
Well, one thing that people don't quite understand is we have not kept up with our rates. We haven't raised rates here for our utilities in years. So we mismanaged that. All of a sudden now, when he's talking about a $300 water bill, of course, $100 that'll come off of your non-ad valorem or in that area. But the rate studies that we've done and stuff, we're not keeping up on this. So the fact that we're going to have a more expensive utility bill is unfortunately a fact of life. The one good thing is that we're going to have a lot of our infrastructure and water plant, treatment plant, all that is going to be up to top-notch standards here. So we shouldn't have to look at a big bill for rebuilding anything there. So unfortunately, we're going to have to pay more for water, but we're still, if you look at the graphs and so forth, we're still going to be as cheap or cheaper than most of the area.
Yeah, and obviously I don't need, I'm just trying to keep this in front of the board.
Yeah.
I'll be workshopping next year's budget in May, as we have done the last 2 cycles that we've been here. I can't believe we've been here 2 years.
All right.
I got old and white-haired, and you still look the same way you did when you showed up.
Oh, he's lost weight.
I'll need to know at the May workshop if we're going to even consider removing the non-ad valorem assessment from the utility fund. The impacts of that are going to be the bill that's shown here. So the base rate, as you can see, for that single family scenario would be $128 for water, $128 for sewer, and then the volumetric rates per 1,000 gallons work out to about $11 for water and sewer, as they're depicted here. The other accounts are all tied to meter size. The wholesale or bulk accounts, this whole issue about in the future sub-metering is really not part of this per se, but sub-metering would be a separate policy decision, I think, for another day. But if you're inclined to want to see the budget that I present in May without an ad valorem subsidy, then we're going to substantially increase and forecast utility rates to help offset that. Or if we're going to phase it in or something like that, I'm just telling you, we need to have that discussion in May.
I think we have a lot of work to do on the bulk accounts, because I believe it's about a 2-inch meter that feeds the 2-story condo.
I think that's right.
Building, right? And there's, I don't know how many units. Does anybody know offhand exactly how many units are in that 2-story building over by the marina?
Over at the marina?
Yeah. The condo.
That's F, isn't it? F building?
Building or something.
More than a dozen.
So anyway, everyone else is going to get charged a meter charge of $128 for any condo or single-family residence, because it's a 5/8 meter. You get into the bulk meters, a 2-inch meter, they're paying $1,000, so that's 10, less than 10. That's like 9 times. Then there's 20-something units in the building. So the people in the bulk meters are going to get about half the water bill or less than what everybody else is getting. And I don't think that's fair.
Well,
I've been an advocate to be fair across the board with everyone, that everyone pays their share, and the bulk meter accounts, according to this, would have a screaming deal compared to everyone else.
We're going to have to address all of this going forward, because you're absolutely right about that. First of all, we have to decide, you know, who's not going to be metered, individuals, and, you know, and then these numbers. But that's all stuff we need to work on.
We need to work on it. But that to me, this rate that you're looking at here, we have to do a lot of work to.
One other quick question. Before we get all dug into this, is there any interest in Collier County buying our utility?
We had that conversation maybe a year ago. And I think that was as part of getting the commissioner to come, down here that day. And at that time, he was, running for reelection and this, that, and the other thing. I think the real decision will rest with the county manager and the county's utility director. And so I'm not avoiding your question. If I were in their shoes, I would want to pursue that the same way that they pursued the acquisition of the utility systems in Golden Gate City and the Orange Tree community out near the fairgrounds.
And how is that?
There is some precedence for the county going in, and in those cases, they purchased small sub-regional utilities to help build the customer base to enable them to do other things. And so in the last 10 years or so, there is some precedence for them acquiring small systems to give them the customer base to do the things that they want to do.
Well, my personal opinion on that is I think that we should still be looking into that. Now, whether or not the citizens here decide that that's a direction that they would want to go, but at least we should have that option.
Well, and that's why when we gave your utility consultant his initial marching orders, we asked him to develop a plan as close or identical to the county's method for assessing their existing customers, that they've got 60,000 or something like that, utility customers. And so this plan does represent the type of format as an enticement to the county.
This community would be so good if that monkey was off our back.
I will pursue and ask for some further analysis on alternatives to the 2-meter base rate and the other larger or compound meters. I think the same would be true for the 1-inch.
I think when this was built, when this table was put together, a 2-inch meter, it could be a business meter, it could be, I don't think that the 2-inch meter was necessarily built in this table to represent a unit with 20 individual taxed units in a building, so to speak.
We got to make it fair.
We do.
And I'll do that also for that 1-inch meter. I can run a report through Muni Billing that shows me how many of the different size meter accounts, and then we can reconcile that with the number of units that are benefiting them.
So have you had enough billing and so forth in place now? You're starting to get a trend as to between peak season and summer season and that type of thing? Have you got enough information yet?
I think it's much better, and in fact, we just provided them with some additional usage, the consultants with some additional usage, so I'll say yes.
Okay, good.
One other thing I'd like to address on this table, we addressed this years ago before ever being on the board. We have tier 1 for single family, and we have tier 1 for multifamily, and I never really understood why there's a difference. Because in the gallons, it's on the next page, page 17. A single family, tier 1 is 0 to 20,000 gallons at the base rate, tier 1 of $1.57. And a multifamily is 0 to 10,000 gallons, and then it jumps to tier 2 from 157 to 235 a gallon. So I didn't understand why we would sell the water cheaper to the houses. And this isn't talking about sprinkler water or anything. This is just usable potable water.
Right.
Why would we sell it cheaper to the single family houses than we do anyone else? It goes back to the fair, and again, I think we have to take a real look at that. I don't understand that. If someone can explain why that ever became that way, I'm not sure.
Understood.
The other thing that I've got a little issue with is the idea of changing the reclaimed water pricing to be, like right now it's at 75%, and we wanted to raise it to 100. I personally don't like that idea. I would like to see something in between there, because just for instance, the people over there in the marina that are washing their boats and whatnot, that water does not return to our wastewater treatment plant. Mm-hmm. People who fill swimming pools, all that sort of stuff. And the cost of reclaim is double with what freshwater is, it not? You know, so it's a big number. You know, it's up to you guys what you want to do. Me personally, I don't mind the idea of the 75%, but that's up to you.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm open on that.
I just have one question. You get two water rates here. You get the wastewater rate and the potable rate. So they're added together, so it's $256 every 2 months, is the base rate?
Yeah, and then to get to my $308 or $310 number, then I use 5,000 gallons at $365 and $750, right below that respectively, to sort of get to that $310 number.
Yeah, and and split that in half, so it's 150 a month.
A month, yeah.
Which is still high, but not for Florida.
No.
The 150 a month, be 1,500, it'd be less than we pay on non-ad valorem right now.
Right.
So,
Okay, I wanted a little bit of input. I wanted to get you guys focused on that May date, sort of, or, you know, our preliminary draft budget assumptions, and I've got a half a dozen things here that we'll follow up on.
are we gonna have a work meeting on this sometime, keep one of the, or just do it at the next board meeting, or what's your plan?
Probably not the next meeting, but I could see us having some further, you know, information to share at the April meeting before we get to the budget workshop.
I won't be here at the next meeting.
All right, I'd like to see us try to have most of this stuff for approval done by March. Only because every time we've worked on this, we've got backed up against our deadline dates, and then we're jamming it in.
Yeah, well, I'll reach back out to Rob, and if we can get answers to the 4 or 5 different things I've got here, I'll put this back on for next month.
Okay.
The final thing I have today are the first quarter financials. They're back of your agenda materials. These would be as of the end of December. And just some highlights off the balance sheet. The district's current cash position is $5.4 million cash between the checking operating general fund $4,073,000 and the utility fund at $1,320,000 in rough numbers. Additionally, the district has fixed assets net of depreciation of another $8.3 million. That represents the depreciated value of the infrastructure here, to include the roads and drainage and streetlight facilities, in addition to the utility plant that is obviously the bulk of the fixed assets that you have. There were $155,000 in payables and offsetting deposits for those rental accounts that are shown on the liability side of that. And then looking quickly at the income statement on the next page, you'll see a surprising $458,000 in non-ad valorem assessments that came in December. Those people chasing that deduction from their personal income tax returns, I think, pretty high number, a little slower in the November. People were more inclined to pay in December than they were in November to get the full 4% discount that was available. But that represents about 71% of your total revenues for the year. From that source came in the first 3 months. I think that is favorable to budget. I think the other thing that I would just sort of point out, as I look at the various cost centers, there's nothing really remarkable that is there, you know, during the first quarter. There are some seasonality events that take place. We prepay your insurance premiums for the year, so we've sort of front-loaded those costs. Tax collector and property appraiser fees are as incurred or invoiced typically in the first quarter. But overall, total expenditures in the general fund were about $127,000 below budget. Year to date, they were $43,000 below budget year to date in your utility fund. So good report, very strong cash position. Interest earnings on your accounts continue to be really favorable. as we would expect them to.
I'm curious, this discount, this 4% discount you get for paying your taxes at a certain time, is that in a stair step? Because a lot of times when I've paid like our county taxes in other states, you know, if you pay by the first month, you get the 4% off, the next month you get 3%, and so forth. Are we the same way?
That's the way it is here.
Okay.
You get down to the point where in January, then you're just paying the prevailing rate, and then if not paid before April, they become delinquent and they have late fees associated with them, and if not paid with late fees, then they are taken to a public auction and sold to investors at the end of May.
And that's the next thing. Now that this deal for, the deal with MI Homes has stopped, we're going to be looking next month at Lindsay Case's buying, his six-month extension runs out on March 22nd. So I reached out to him to find out if he intended to honor that commitment. I got no reply from him. So that's something that we're going to have to be looking at next month. In fact, I think the meeting is the same day that.
Next day.
I would expect that we would hear something, because otherwise he'll be in technical default of the purchase agreement, and I don't think he wants to go there.
Right. Okay.
Zach, are you still with us?
Zach? Must have lost him. Maybe not.
I did have,
I'll confirm
I
that,
did talk to Zach a couple times about that.
as have I.
Yeah.
We're monitoring that, and the impact fee obligation that was part of that takedown
I
schedule.
apologize. I am still here. I had a little technical thing on my phone. We had discussed and could send a courtesy notice about the upcoming deadline, and if you'd like to do that, we can. But the agreement does provide default provisions, and obviously we'll follow those if he does not make payment in time. We've not been approached by him for any request for extension, but the way the agreement is written is once the deadline passes, there remains this opportunity for him to request an extension, and you've set precedent that he pays for those extensions.
Now, while I'm thinking about this, and maybe this isn't the time for it, but on vacant commercial lands here or on commercial lands here, they basically have set ERCs at 4 per acre for most properties. I know that's what I pay on mine, and a lot of the others do too. And I'm wondering about the gun club. The gun club's got over 50 acres of land, bigger than Lindsay Case, or at least as big as Lindsay Case. And as far as I know, they're paying on like 8 ERCs.
Their total non-ad valorem, I looked today, was $9,000. Total non-ad valorem.
Yeah, so they're not being taxed or assessed anywhere close to being fair. The O&M portion of that especially, realistically, there should be 200 O&Ms on that property, just like there's 200, should be 200 O&Ms on parcel 13. I don't know, when do we address that? When can we change that? Can you answer that for me, Zach?
Well, this can be done. So this came up in the last setting of the rates here, and if you recall, the gun club sent counsel and argued their position on this. And so if you were to go back and redo your methodology, it could be done at that time.
And when can we do that?
So presumably it needs to be part of the budget cycle, so it would be something that would be initiated shortly.
Very good.
But it wouldn't be, but as my understanding is that this would not be a evaluation, it shouldn't be an evaluation of just one piece of the puzzle. It needs to be an evaluation of the entire system.
I agree.
When we had debt specialists come in give us an assessment on all these properties, they considered that a golf course. That's how they
Yes,
assessed
that was the hearing, and so that you were provided expert analysis that set the rate that it's at now. And so to shift that, it would be our advice that you have expert analysis that supports the change, as opposed to just changing it.
The gun club's not really vacant. There is a function there now, and it's been assessed.
Well, you know, originally they had, the previous board had them with 2 ERCs that they were paying on in that property. And then we changed it to 8 ERCs. We never sold them 6 more ERCs. Everybody else pays for them. And the only reason I'm kind of looking at this is this MI Homes thing's falling through is going to cost this community dearly. And the whole reason I'm hearing about it is because of the neighbor. But that's just it.
So just to clarify on the direction on parcel 13, would you like our office to send a courtesy reminder as to the deadline or just wait for the deadline to pass?
I don't think he knows.
Okay.
I don't think you need to spend time on it. What do you guys think?
I don't know, legally, what?
It might be nice. So,
Okay. Yeah, I guess if it's legal, if you think it would help us.
There's no legal requirement to do it, but certainly it would make sure there was no question about what the deadline was.
What do you suggest?
I say there's no harm in doing it, and so I would do it.
Go for it.
All right. Can we back up just 1 second and entertain a motion to accept the financials? And
Yes.
then that'll take us down to Zach's report. If he's got anything further. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the financials.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Zach, we're down to you. Anything further under the attorney's report?
Yes, I have 2 items, both addressing the ongoing litigation. As to the Premier District Management litigation over public records, we have received a settlement offer as well as we received an additional production of documents yesterday. I would request that we have a shade meeting so you can provide me direction because I need advice as to your consideration of the settlement agreement. And so I'd like to schedule a shade meeting more than 7 days from now so that we can notice it. And if we could entertain that now, I think that would be appropriate.
Can we do it either as part of our next meeting, say before or following the meeting, preferably before, because I need to run separate notice of an executive meeting.
I would suggest if you're going to do it at the next meeting that it be before,
Okay.
so that we can do a time certain and make sure we have to have a court reporter.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Okay. Should we set that for what? 8:30? Half hour good enough? Or 9:30, 9 o'clock? Half
I
hour
think
enough?
that I think to be safe, 8:30 would be preferable.
Okay.
And no problems getting.
And just for sorry, I couldn't hear that last part.
And that will work. We can get a court reporter here.
There should be no issue getting a court reporter with that much notice, and we will have more than 7 days to run the ad, so there shouldn't be any issues with that. We do have mediation scheduled in that case the first week of April, so that will line up nicely with the mediation itself. And the hopes would be that we could resolve it pre-mediation, which I believe is possible, but I'd like to discuss that in the shade meeting.
Okay. Tentatively set then and to be advertised for 8:30, March the 21st.
Correct.
The regular meeting to follow at its regularly scheduled time.
Okay.
You said 2
And then
things.
as to the PrepMac litigation, there was a late attempt by the plaintiffs to add in a count for damages. We moved to strike that, and the court granted that. So the attempt to recover damages in that lawsuit has been denied by the court, which is good news.
So in other words, if we lost that, they would get nothing anyway to speak of.
So those are my updates as to the litigation.
Okay.
Thank you, Zach.
Other supervisor requests.
Anyone?
Yeah, I just have one thing.
Cool.
It's not really impressive. It's going back to that heavy metal testing.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that Lindsay Case's property in Luland, we have to get their permission. So it's kind of useless if we don't get their permission. How can we make sure we get their permission?
we can make sure we have their permission. We are going to talk to them, and if they allow us to come on, great. If they don't, this is gonna have to go back to the DEP, and the DEP will have to come on their property.
The DEP will do that.
What?
The DEP will do that.
Well, they put in our permit that we have to do this.
Yeah.
And we can't go on their property without their permission, so that puts it right back in the DEP's lap.
We don't have easements on their properties?
It might not be where we have to test. So they drew up a plan for the testing. We have to do, we have to take core samples, we have to take water table samples, we have to do a few different things, all right? And it has to be in so many feet from our test well, and that's gonna put us onto, I believe, onto their property.
Okay,
But we will be talking them to maybe shortly.
okay, good.
If they're there, we'll talk to them shortly.
Any other supervisor comments or requests?
Good.
Any final public comments for today? If not, Mr. Chairman, 2 hours, not bad, given everything that we dealt with, and we can entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll see you all on March 21st.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Thank you all for coming, and next meeting, you might not be able to get in until 9:30 if our thing runs late, but no later than 9:30.
What are we going to do?
Yes.
We go for what?
I would like to
Is that the next meeting?